Nice. What's up, Jason? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Paul?
Doing good, thank you. So you're a realtor?
Yeah, Paul, we met. So George, I don't know if you remember him when you were working with me, George Tessembellis, who's a loan officer who's on my program for a long time. He started bringing his partner on, who's Jay, who's a realtor at Compass. And then when we started putting out videos or just me putting out stories on my personal stuff saying that we're into NFTs and whatnot, George thought that we should meet. And then we kind of just hit it off right away. Jay was looking into buying, property in the metaverse. He's into trading. Like he's really into all this shit.
That was a good intro, Mario. We should probably just start.
Yeah. And what I really loved about Jay is that he's coming into this with a real estate background, right? And I think that there's so much opportunity for realtors, loan officers to start getting into this space early on. So I guess we could start there. I mean, Jay, what kind of attracted you to this space?
I started really doing a lot of research on Bitcoin back in 2019. And just the idea of the tokenomics of it and the prospect of digital money, the way it was all presented, it really intrigued me. And then from there, I pretty much went down the rabbit hole. And I just started to really learn about all the prospects of blockchain, anything that you can do with crypto. The thing that really sort of fascinates me the most about it is all the issues we have with like our liquidity issues, having on-demand liquidity, having tokens that you can actually leverage, all the DeFi stuff that is possible with crypto. You have such an efficiency factor that is possible. All the friction in the financial system, you're seeing that there is a solution in the crypto space. And I've just pretty much expanded as much knowledge as I possibly can to really kind of find what are the solutions. And that's really important. And that's kind of my thesis for my investing in this space too, is that's the first thing is I'm looking for tokens and projects that are solving a real world issue problem. So that's pretty much what drew me into there is, I saw the problems that we're experiencing now that were sort of coming down the pipe. And I was like, okay, there's absolutely something here in this space. And now, even though we're in this, horrible market right now, it's a bear market. We've seen the market grow to upwards of $1 trillion. We have more institutional investing than ever. And we're seeing our financial system pretty much all collapsing before our eyes. So what better opportunity to really understand this space and try to capitalize from it, because it's not going anywhere.
Did you have any background in finance?
No, I started to really study finance. Now it's like, I can't believe, how blind I was for all these years. But it was honestly, after I started reading about Bitcoin, I was like, okay, I need to learn about finance. And then once I learned about finance, then I started learning about trading. And now, I combine my fundamental analysis because I had a background in research. In college, I was published. I was thinking about actually becoming, a full-time researcher. So I have the fundamental skills for research. Now I've developed the finance background and the technical analysis, and now kind of put it all together. And now I'm just really trying to grow it and make it as good as I can.
I agree with everything you said, Jay, except for watching the financial markets collapse around us. I don't think we're collapsing. Just because I've been through the '08 correction, I wasn't trading. I was in college. I just graduated college with the dot-com bust. But kind of when I think of collapse, I always bust Mario's balls a little bit about wording. So just, we definitely have a sell-off going on, but by no means is this any panic or collapse. And Bitcoin fits in well to really broad macroeconomic trends that I think are pointed out really well by Ray Dalio and the books that he's recently written. And if you don't follow that guy on LinkedIn, I think everybody should, because he has an unbelievable perspective. He just stepped down from Bridgewater, but I think the majority of his next chapter in life, what he says is just educating. And he does a great job of it. And so if you kind of follow what he talks about when it comes to history, economies, debt cycles, the Fed, and the rise and fall of superpowers like the Romans all the way through the US now, it actually really makes sense how Bitcoin will play into this whole thing, or any digital currencies, right? Especially if the dollar is not the world's reserve currency. Who knows, in the next 50 or 100 years, you can see how like something like Bitcoin would fill that void, right? So it's all cool, and it's all really long term how it plays out. But it's almost like saying having conversations back in 2000 and then watching them play out over the last 20 years. That's kind of how people are making the analogy towards what you're saying now. It's not like it's going to happen in 6 months. You can have huge run-ups and sell-offs, but overall, I think we agree that this is probably going up and to the right, and kind of see the writing on the wall.
Did you guys? Paul, I had asked you, Jay. Did you see the documentary Eat the Rich, the whole GameStop thing?
You know what? I saw some clips from it. I didn't see the whole thing though.
I was fascinated by it because it combined two worlds that I'm kind of in right now. I'm trying to learn the finance world, right, and trading, and I learn every day from Paul and my brother, but how social media, right, affected this. Like the little guy came in and destroyed the big guys. So it was pretty interesting. I think you would enjoy it. You should definitely check it out.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And the thing that I got from that whole kind of movement, and I think this is going to be a huge catalyst in digital assets, is that, well, I'm 40, so I'm still considered like a millennial. So my generation and below, we're in a sort of weird spot where a lot of people are desperate for something new. And, the days of like our parents, who might have invested in an index fund in the 70s and just wrote it up until retirement and were millionaires, that's becoming, few and far between now. So I think there's just such an urgency from our generation and young people to really kind of hit it big and get out of the rat race. I think that's been illuminated through, COVID as well, as, all these people who are working these jobs start to realize how much more life there is. And the idea of escaping the rat race through investing and having control over your day and time, I think is just going to be a further catalyst for people to continue to dive into this space and look for opportunities. So it's interesting to see like where it's going to go. And even these meme tokens now that I didn't take seriously, there's a lot more to them now as the space evolves. There's a lot more social activism and community, and that's really what a currency is. It's based on trust. So if you can build a big enough sort of community that all trust in one project, you can really help each other get rich. We saw this with Doge, SHIB. I'm a big believer in Zuka. As I told you now, I caught that one back in end of July. That's also exciting as well.
Yeah, I'm in it with you, just watching it, hovering around 11 cents since I bought in. Tell me about Propy. I don't know much about it, but when we had spoke, I think you had said you're on the board, or they had asked you to be on the board once they realized that you were kind of a good bridge, right, between the Web3 space and real estate.
I'm not on their board or anything. I'm more act like as an advisor. I'm good friends with Adam Brown, who's the VP of education at Propy, and we kind of met and connected. And I discovered Propy about 3 years ago as well. And I saw a lot of potential, and I kind of just, I got on the phone with them. I was talking to them. I was kind of saying, okay, like here's where I think the platform should go. And then, as I monitored it and started to see it grow and develop into what it is now, and they've actually have conducted, a handful or more NFT real estate sales, and then seeing how they're now incorporating a full transaction platform. That was one of the things that actually drew me to them, is they have a transaction platform that's built on Ethereum, and then it can be facilitated on Ethereum. And now they're also incorporating title as well. They've transacted, I believe, about $5 billion right now on Ethereum through the transaction portal and through the real estate NFT sales. So it's an exciting company. It's a pioneering company.
But Jay, can you just explain what Propy is for somebody hearing it for the first time, and then like how a transaction would look on Propy versus in the real world?
It's a Web3 project. It's a crypto project, and they have a utility token. It's called a Pro token, and that's what helps to facilitate some of the transactions on the platform. It's built on Ethereum, so all the transactions are done on Ethereum. The transactions can be facilitated through like USD, normal cash, through a normal real estate process. It's just that they have a more automated transaction process that will actually guide everybody who's a part of the deal throughout the entire deal from start to finish. Then they have this other side where anybody who's interested in transaction in crypto, they can list their property on the Propy website, on their marketplace. And then this is marketed throughout the world. And then anybody can bid on it in Ethereum or in stablecoins as well, or even in Bitcoin if you wanted. So and then you get the NFT is created by Propy. That shows you as a new owner of the property, and that's that side of it. So they have a traditional real estate side for transactions, and then they have the NFT and crypto side as well.
So Jay, the part that confuses me is how does Propy go about bridging what's happening now on paper and being recorded in town hall and saying they create an NFT, which makes sense, but does the other stuff still go on? IRL?
Yes. So right now, yes. So now, especially with their title service, so what they do is they create an NFT, and then they also help you register with whatever county you're in, because that's kind of what the legal jurisdiction is. And it's also it's a way to kind of ease people's fears and concerns about sort of entering this with and not a traditional sense. Obviously, everyone's first sort of question is, okay, like, is this going to be recognized? And yes, it is. And they do have a strong legal team, and they have people, who understand all the legalities of real estate in each state to help make sure that it's valid and it's longstanding.
Let's say I want to buy your house and do it this way, which I would be totally down with, right? But then when I want to resell it to somebody who's 80 years old and they're like, I want nothing to do with Ethereum or what you're talking about, then how does it would still have to transact the old school way, right?
That's definitely something that is probably going to happen and easily can happen. So the transfer of value is not going to be impeded. It might just have to be adjusted, but they can facilitate it each way.
I still don't have a clear understanding. So let's go through a linear scenario. I want to sell my house. So traditional way is I call a realtor, they come, they list my house, it goes on MLS. Is that so? Let's just go from there to there. What's different with Propy or selling it as an NFT or putting it on a blockchain? Is that process still the same or something different there?
Yes. So they do allow agents to facilitate a transaction, same as usual, and you can also list it on the MLS. What they have that's really cool is they also have in the transaction portal a way to market to social media and to pretty much broaden the scope. With property, you can list it on the MLS, but then you can also take this now onto their platform that markets it to a broader audience. So that's what's really cool about that. But yeah, everything is still the same.
So what would be a downside of a realtor listing a house and also working with Propy? Because it just looks like they're getting more exposure, right? If they also are on Propy. So I'm trying to make a real clear picture here of what it's like now versus a new way of doing it.
There's no real downside. You still have the same control over the deal if you're using the transaction portal. It's when you go the NFT side where it becomes a little different, and I'll get into that as soon as you're ready for that.
I think that's where where I'm going with this. So, all right, you're a realtor, you get a listing, you put it on MLS. Then what? You go and sign up with Propy and you're like, here's my property. I want you guys to market it as well. Now, at this point, it's still not on blockchain. It's not an NFT. It has nothing to do with this Web3. It's just we're going with them and we're saying, okay, we want you to market it as well. So what is a commission split there? So let's say somebody comes in through Propy. I mean, that would be the downside, right? If they're coming in through Propy, now you have to give like a referral fee, I guess.
Yeah. So if you go on the NFT route with Propy, altogether it's about $8,000 to set up the smart contract and to create the NFT for the property, and then it's a 1% overall fee that Propy takes. So now the agent who's facilitating the deal will now have to negotiate with the seller or the buyer who they're working with for their commission. So that's something that's totally separate. So
Okay,
that's what
so let's
Yeah.
when I interrupt, it's just because I don't want to move on without
Oh,
me
yeah.
asking. All right. So you're the realtor and you're like, look, we're gonna do it conventional and we're gonna do it new way also. Here's the deal. If we sell it conventionally through MLS, here's my commission. If we sell it through Propy, we're gonna be listening with them. We get a broader audience, but there's some fees associated with it. So if we sell it, I have to charge, there's gonna be an extra $8,000, let's just say, deducted or put onto my commission. Is that accurate?
No, it's not their
No,
commission.
so that's what
$8,000 to set that up, which Propy charges to
Right, that's what I'm saying. So
make
who's
it
paying
from-
for it?
to make it. Oh, who's paying for that?
That's what I was
That'd
saying.
be the seller,
That's
right?
well,
it's the
that's what
seller.
that's
It's
what I'm
the
saying. The
seller. Yeah.
conversation is going to be, it's going to be an additional cost of $8,000 to put it here, right? Which, okay, maybe it doesn't come out of my commission. Maybe it's upfront cost, but now you're running into,
Well, that's so what Jay is saying is when you enter into a traditional transaction as the seller, you realize you're going to pay 5%. Like that's kind of like the known standard or 6%. Jay's saying in this case, it's two different things. So you're now entering into something with Propy. They're charging you a flat fee of $8,000 to make this digital, and they're taking 1%. So now you know that. So separate from all that, whatever brokers or agents you deal with, that's separate from Propy, you're still going to set your commission. So Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. You might say, I'm listing this with you. I'm willing to pay you 2% and the buyer 2%, and then Propy is going to get the other 1%, and kind of you would have to like mesh those two.
Yeah, so all Propy, like all they care about is the 1% on their end, and the $8,000. So whatever I negotiate on my end as the agent, they don't have anything to do with that. So that would be just between me and my client.
okay, so let's address something pretty interesting here. Because as a seller right now, I'd be a little reluctant, right? To go, hey, this is new. Why am I spending an extra $8,000? But here's an interesting thing that I heard Gary V mention. The seller could design a contract in a certain way. I don't know if this is a template, standard template or boilerplate template, but they can make it where every time this house is sold, if it's put on or sold on the blockchain, they can get a royalty every time this
Yes.
house is sold of 1%. So that's something to think about as well. Like you're like, hey, this house may be sold 3 more times in my lifetime. I don't know, but I'm getting a percentage of that because I'm doing it this new way also. Right? There's some interesting things that can be done there.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's how Propy also designs their smart contract too, as well. That so say you're the agent, you do get, and I'm not exactly sure of the royalty, but as the agent or the seller, the smart contract, it could be created in a way where you do get residual income from that as well every time it's sold.
Okay, so now we're
two things I'm thinking about. So number one, Mara, you're saying it costs more. It would actually cost less because if you're selling it through Propy, you're paying them 1% plus $8,000.
Yeah, but no, the realtor and the brokerage still got to get paid.
No, the buyer has to get paid. If you're selling it through Propy, they're charging 1% and $8,000 on a.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
got it. Because of the 2% that's going to the buyer's agent. So
2.5% to the buyer,
right,
1 more percent to Propy. Now you're paying 3.5%.
Well, if we're going to use the right terms, let's use the right terms. 2.5% to the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying buyer, so 2.5%.
Buyer's agent, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, 1% to Propy. Now you're at 3.5%, not 5
Yep.
or 6. So that difference between the 3.5 and 5 or 6 and the $8,000, you're probably going to have more money in your pocket.
Yes,
not
great
less.
point.
Okay, so that's one. And then
This was
two,
yeah.
I understand that the contract could be set up for reoccurring sales, but why? That part doesn't make sense to me. Why should why, if you sell your house, are you entitled to?
You're not entitled to it, but it's just something. It's just a business, right? Like if you can get it
Why?
done.
That's a deterrent. That would act to me as a barrier to have a transaction. Like I wouldn't agree to that. If I'm buying a
Yeah,
house from
I think that's a
somebody
fair point.
and then I go to resell it and I have to give a piece when I resell it to the person I just bought it from, why would I want to do that?
So I think that's a very fair point, and I think that could absolutely be a deterrent unless there was something that you were also including with the property. So say you have a full property history, say you have a specific floor plan or whatever, every material that you used in the property, something that had more intrinsic value to the next buyer, that's something that might be more enticing to actually include in a smart contract as a royalty. I do agree with you that just saying, oh, because I'm buying this house, I have to pay a royalty to the original seller. I think it also too, it depends. Is it noticeable? Is it something that someone's going to be hung up on in the purchase? So it's very subjective.
I'll tell you why.
I think in the housing market that we just went past, I think anybody would have signed anything. You could have said,
I
maybe
agree with that.
instead of
too,
going
yeah.
$100,000,
Well,
think
here's what I just thought of after I made that comment. It's one more negotiating point entered into it. Because what you could do is you can say, you're asking $1 million for this house. I'm willing to give you 900,000 and a 1% royalty. That's negotiating.
yes,
You
that's
could do
great.
something like that. So it's
Yeah.
another like layer of
Paul,
negotiating.
I'm sure there's a lot of other things that we could think of also, but getting back to like, we're circling back to how you were explaining the whiskeys, there's just no mechanism, right, to even do that right now. Like to even come up with a different type of scenario. Because you may settle on
Just
something
makes
like
it
you just said.
easier. It makes it easier. Nobody does that because it's not commonplace, but you could do that. Forget about anything crypto related. I could go to somebody and say, I'll give you $900,000 right now, and I'll enter into a separate contract with you to pay you a 1% royalty when I resell the house within the next 25 years. Just who the hell does that and thinks of that, right? Maybe there are some people, but this just kind of just facilitates that and ties it all together to make things like that possible.
But maybe the blockchain is the reason why you could do these things, because now there's a mechanism, just like fractionalizing, right?
Yeah, it makes
Up until now, it just makes it easier. So now you're going to start seeing all sorts of different types of negotiations, which I think is amazing, right? Like we're going to see things we never even thought was possible because people are going to be thinking so outside the box because of what can be done with this new technology, right?
And the technology is facilitating it. So just all the creative ways of doing finance, it just goes back to what I said like in the beginning. That's what's really eye-opening is you can think of anything. And as long as you have people who also see the value in that, you can now, with this tech, make it happen. So there's so many ways to now, earn yield, make more money through all these technologies, all these platforms, all these protocols.
Here's the other thing too, because one of the things I would think about is what if my bank account was different, right, in 10 years, but there is no more because now it's all tied to your wallet. There's no reason to close a wallet, or I mean, have we closed
have as many wallets as you can have bank accounts? It's kind of
right, but it's always coming to you though. It's not like they have to find a bank account. So in 25 years from now, if I'm not with Chase anymore, in standard, like the way it is right now, it's not that money's not hitting my bank account automatically, right? But it is hitting my wallet automatically.
Yeah, so it's your wallet address. So now you can in essence be a traveling bank.
Yes.
And now instead of like having to open up an account for each bank you want to work with, you can now just take your wallet and connect it to that bank, which is a protocol. It could be a lending protocol. It could be anything. I'm also like on the wait list because I have a ledger for their Visa card. So it's going to connect my accounts onto my ledger and then say like, I have stablecoin, I have Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever. I can now pay at various merchants who would take that. It's still not out yet, but I'm on the wait list for that too. But that's just kind of where it's going. So yeah, it's more control for the user, and I think honestly that scares institutions because they make a lot of money off being the middleman in our finances. But that's also a super enticing thing in crypto is you having control over your finances.
I have a big request here. Do you think that you can ask the guy that you're in with Propy if he would hop on podcast. I would love to get him on
Absolutely.
with you and like just
Absolutely.
especially because of both of our audiences, right? Like I have a big real estate audience that I would love to teach the realtors and the LOs, right? Like from this guy's mouth and how things are working and start introducing them. So I think it would be advantageous if we can get him on if he'd be willing to.
Yeah, I think he'd want to do it. He does a bunch of these podcasts, and he's a great teacher too. I mean, he obviously he knows the company inside and out and what they do, and he can speak even better of it than I can. But yeah, he's a great teacher. I think he'd be willing to do it.
Cool. Jay, what's the URL for Propy if people want to go there?
You can just go propy.com. Honestly, it'll come up.
How do you spell
Google
Propy?
search? Propy.
Propy. Got it. So Jay, what are you doing now with your crypto stuff? Have your investments shifted? What are you focusing on? What do you like?
I consolidated my portfolio. So I kind of, I was watching the markets for the drop of 65,000, and I pretty much cut bait around 41. That was kind of my line in the sand where I saw that it was going lower. So I put in some shorts. I consolidated my portfolio right now. So I'm mainly in stable coins right now. I'm not ready to buy spot yet. And I've made maybe 2 swing trades. I'm not a day trader. I focus more on the swing. I shorted from 41 down to 22. And then I longed from about 19 up to the local top, which was about 24.5. And then I put in a slight short down, but I didn't ride it all the way down. I cut bait around 20,000 there. And then I've been kind of just watching the chop. There's been a ton of liquidity grabs, tons of wash trading. The whales are just kind of moving the market up between support and resistance to profit. In the meantime, any retail person is trying to buy that without really knowing where to buy is being chopped up. So that's pretty much what I'm seeing right now. As far as tokens that I'm holding, my 2 big plays are actually XRP and Quant. XRP was the second token that I bought back in 2020, other than Bitcoin. Obviously, I have Bitcoin and Ethereum. I kind of laugh at the hate that XRP gets. If you spent the amount of time just researching it, you'll see that it's going to be a major player in the new financial system. There's just so many individuals who are now on the board. They have so many connections, and anybody who's fading XRP is going to cope very hard over the next 5 years. And then Quant, I think it's a fantastic project. It's the only project that's solving a major issue with interoperability. So many cryptos are trying to bridge and go cross chain, and they've been exposed. Quant is going to be a major player in interoperability in crypto, which is absolutely necessary. You can't really operate in a walled garden in crypto. I think it's not efficient. There's not a whole lot of longevity there. So those are the 2 kind of like altcoins I would say. I'm a big fan of HBAR, Hedera. It's not even a blockchain. It's Hashgraph is HBAR. It's
HBAR.
So yep. So they use Hashgraph as their technology. Super fast, super efficient. They've conducted more transactions than any other, I guess you can say, like layer 1 out there, believe it or not. Over 1 billion transactions. They also own NFT.com, which it's going to be a major platform for NFTs. That's something I'm huge on. I'm also a believer in Solana. Their NFT market right now is doing better than anybody's. The volume of NFTs on Solana is outstanding, and there's just a huge community of people there who are believers. They have their throughput issues, obviously going offline. They need to increase their validators. Once that happens, I think there's going to be tremendous growth there. And then obviously, Ethereum is obviously going to be, it's going to be huge. And they've reduced their emissions by a tremendous amount with the merge over to 2.0. So that's exciting. And then, I think BNB and the Binance Smart Chain is going to be huge just because of the efficiency, the speed, and the lack of gas fees. And there's a few other ones that I'm actually researching right now. I could go on and on. I don't want to go too far, but those are a handful right there that I'm really excited about.
Jay, I bought BNB at $10 and sold it at 40. But
Oh
so
man.
I love relative strength. XRP certainly has been exhibiting great relative strength. So on the, you mentioned fundamental and technical stuff in the beginning. On technicals, relative strength is like my number one on my screening. So I start with that. So XRP checks that off. Quant, I've never heard of, but I'll tell you what, another thing I love is when huge support and resistance zones get breached and then tested. I just had it up here. Why is it not coming up? But what I see there is that, like, call it the $90 range from years ago. If you look at a weekly chart, right?
Yeah.
It broke through that like 91, 92 recently, probably in July, came up to 121, but then came back and tested, it looks like 88.90 and is now bounced off that. So if you're above there,
Yeah.
that's also above the 200-day weekly. I think that one looks really good. The
Yeah,
other ones I haven't heard of either, but those are
great.
cool. Solana,
Yeah.
I like a lot. Solana's kind of stuck in the mud. The whole spamming the network thing, I think, has to be resolved. And I think there's kind of just like a lot of supply with like institutions that have been selling that from what I've read, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's exhibited horrible relative strength, even though it stopped going down. But that one right now, until it like kind of, you know, shows some life, like Ripple's just done, is kind of just like wait and see.
Yeah, the one thing I was unfortunate about Solana is they had tons of momentum with their ecosystem. However, their ecosystem, it was pretty much VCs who got tons of liquidity, and they dumped on everybody. So on all those projects that everyone was buying and FOMOing into and actually using, they got dumped on by the VCs. So that was harmful. The main thing that I'm actually, you know, and obviously with the technicals, I think probably one of the most important things in knowing if you're buying a project at the right time is the tokenomics of it. So I love to look at the circulating supply and the max supply. The circulating supply and the max supply, if there's little deviation there and it's pretty much exactly the same, I'm excited about a project like that, because now I know that once the tokens are released, I should say that there's not going to be any more tokens released. So it's not going to have an impact on liquidity and hold down the price. A lot of people got burned on like Moonbeam, which was it's a project on Polkadot that you know, it's a great project. It's a smart contract platform on Polkadot. But what happened was the circulating supply was so much less than the max supply, and then once tokens started getting dumped on the market, it liquidated the whole price. So that's a major factor in price appreciation. That's what I love about Quant. Quant has 14 million tokens, and I believe 12 million are in circulation right now. I could be wrong by a few, but that whole deviation right there and discrepancy is very enticing. Having low supply and most of the tokens in circulation. That's what drew me over to Zuka too, because it's 1 billion tokens for a meme. It's small, and they were all released at the same time in no dev wallet. So nobody owns more than 3% of the supply. So I know that even if there's selling and taking profits, the price isn't going to just tank.
What's your go-to site to check those stats?
If you go on CoinGecko, I like that more than CoinMarketCap. I go on EtherScan, and then whatever chains their actual transaction platform, that's probably the most accurate. Avalanche and Snowtrace, so those. And
it's
then
right up here on the CoinGecko, like kind of like snapshots right up top. You're right.
Yeah, it's great. They have access to the websites. They have all the social media stuff. They have a breakdown of holders, so it's great. And then also too, Dex Screener is fantastic. You can see buys and sells in real time. I love that, and it's a great tool for also trying to catch projects that are just launched.
Mario, pop quiz for you. Mario's learning this stuff and doing a great job. So Jay said he was a swing trader, not a day trader. What's the difference?
He does it with another couple.
That is exactly correct.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of a longer time frame, right? Day traders in and out the same day. Swing traders overnight, usually for periods of 3 to 5 days, 3 to 5 weeks, whatever you want to define yourself as. But figure for the people who don't know that definition, we can throw that in there. Jay, here's my last question for you. I don't know if Mario has any more, but so you're a realtor before all this,
yes.
right? What agency are you with?
Compass.
I'm a Compass.
You're a compass. Oh, cool. And so how much time do you actually spend now as a realtor versus doing all this stuff in the markets on a typical day?
It's interesting. It's like 50-50. I try not to let the real estate go because I'm so obsessed with all this other stuff. And I'm completely obsessed, but I'm also equally obsessed with real estate. So I keep it 50-50 as of now.
What do you think about the real estate market right now with rates close to 7 on mortgages and where we are there?
Yeah, so I love answering that question because if you go like on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you have every agent still saying, oh, it's a great opportunity to buy. Okay, but how? So I think you can capitalize in any market, and it's investing, it's in real estate. It's just how you do it. Now I'm actually in the process of possibly buying a home if I can follow my process and get the right whole price and fund and everything. So my plan, here's an example, and I think it's a great example, just so it's showing that what I'm doing and how it could transfer to anybody else. So I'm looking at getting a 5-year ARM. It's an adjustable rate mortgage at 4.5%. That's what I can get right now. So now I'll have that rate for 5 years. So after 5 years, now if I would have stayed in ARM, I could now be susceptible to rate changes every 6 months, which is a negative. However, I'm projecting that rates will be at that or close to that in 5 years. So now I can refinance into a conventional loan while I'm keeping my monthly payments down. On top of that, I can capitalize by attacking inventory that's been on the market for over 30 days, getting possibly a 10 or 20% discount on top of getting a lower interest rate. So you see now, if you have an actual plan, here's a way that I can capitalize in this market. So that's my expertise, is really kind of looking at the market conditions and teaching people and advising people on how to attack that market and be successful, because it's possible. It's just you have to know all the ins and outs of how to do it.
That's a good plan. Have you seen prices come in 10 to 20% already?
Those properties that are, show great, they're in the areas that everybody wants to be, like in Montclair, New Jersey. I mean, it is insane. I mean, everybody wants to be here. Also, too, like in Glen Ridge, and you have South Orange and Maplewood. These areas, I mean, it's like magnets for anybody moving into the area. You have access to the city. You have great just amenities here, parks. You have restaurants. You have nightlife. So any houses that are coming on the market that are tens, right? They're still going rather quickly, but they're not going for like $200,000 and $300,000 over ask anymore. But the ones that I'm looking at are the ones that I know are cosmetic, that show great, have great bones. And now, I can put maybe 50, 60,000 of sweat equity, and now I can bring that value up to what the other ones are selling for. And that's kind of my strategy. That's what I encourage a lot of first-time home buyers to do if they have the stomach for it. It's all about how you buy. It's not when you buy, it's where you buy and how you buy in it.
Great. I agree with everything you said.
I did that's some great advice.
Larry,
I hope you're actually putting it out there.
Interesting comment one time that because everybody's scared of an ARM, but the average mortgage,
the average length of time that someone stays in a mortgage is 5 to 7 years.
There you go.
Right? Refinancing or selling. Everybody takes out a 30-year fix for the safety, but nobody's in a 30-year fix. Nobody's in a mortgage typically for 30 years. Very few people are in it, and it's the highest rate. Now, I know that there are times where it doesn't make sense to get an ARM, right? When the margins are much smaller. So there are times where a 30-year fix is at 5 and a 5-year ARM is at 4.5. Maybe it doesn't make as much sense. If that's where they are today, an ARM at 4.5 and a 30-year at 7, I should be hearing fucking everybody talking about this, right? Every loan officer, every realtor, this is how they should be advising their clients.
It's so underutilized. I mean, imagine this. Imagine you buy a house that is, is a wreck, but you buy in a prime location, and you're in a position right now where, say, the average mortgage rate is upwards of 7%. Now you buy the worst house in a great neighborhood, right? You get an ARM over 5 years, and now you renovate that property. say you start the renovations maybe 3 years into the loan, and then you're done after 2 years, and you renovated it. Now the market's readjusted, and now think about how much you possibly appreciated that property with the lower interest rate, and now you can refinance. And how much more equity are you going to have in that property now that you can now pull out to buy other properties, investments,
Yeah.
or now to even lower your payments even more, possibly take out a HELOC, have a line of credit as well. So, I mean, there's just so many opportunities if you're advised properly to try to capitalize.
Just circling back to Propy, I really believe, Jay, that you and I can help. Like, we can help, but I have to understand it more. That's why I would love to have this conversation with this guy, because if I could wrap my head around it, I think we could be a great bridge, right, between conventional methods now and this new school, because it seems to me that it makes sense. I just don't know all the answers yet, and I haven't asked all of the questions, but if those get answered, I mean, we do have access to so many LOs and realtors to be the first people to start educating them, right? I mean, it's a huge opportunity.
I think it's like everything else. You know, how I learned about crypto is I started doing. It's an experience. It's something that everybody kind of has to have an open mind for. You know, being taught it, but then also too, once you see it in real time, you'll know if it makes sense for you or not. And I feel like it's with everything.
All right.
Well, I think this is a great place to wrap. Jay, if you do have that gentleman come on, you should come back with him for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely for you to be on as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think. Thank you very much for doing this. This was really cool. We covered crypto, we covered real estate, a lot of interesting topics. So appreciate it.
Yeah,
That was great,
love
man.
to get you
It was
back
a lot
on.
of fun.
All right,
Absolutely. Anytime, guys.